unfold.
All right, let's just jump right in. Have you ever had a food craving that you just couldn't shake? Or, a sudden wave of anxiety that seems to come from absolutely nowhere? What if I told you that feeling wasn't entirely yours? It's a wild question, isn't it? For the longest time, we've thought of the bacteria in our bodies as, well, simple passengers along for the ride. But the latest science is painting a much different picture. A much more complex and, frankly, kind of unsettling one that really challenges our whole idea of free will. And this quote really gets to the heart of it. The idea that maybe, just maybe, we're not the ones in the driver's seat. Instead, the trillions of microbes living inside of us could be the ones pulling the strings. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but the biological evidence for this, it is shockingly real. So who are these tiny puppet masters we're talking about? Let's take a minute to really grasp the sheer scale of who or what is living inside you at this very moment. Now, you've probably heard the old myth, right? That we're more bacteria than human, outnumbered 10 to 1. Turns out that was based on a rough back-of-the-envelope calculation from the 70s. The new reality? It's much closer to a 1-to-1 ratio. We're talking about 38 trillion bacterial cells to your 30 trillion human cells. So, that's it then. A fair fight? We're evenly matched? Not even close. Because the real power, it turns out, isn't about the number of cells. It's about the programming those cells carry. And this is where you see the real imbalance of power. Look at this genetic arsenal. On the left, that's your human genome. It's got about 23,000 genes. Not bad. But then look at the bar on the right. Your microbiome? It's packing over 9 million genes. That is not a fair fight. That's just overwhelming genetic firepower. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means our microbes have a chemical toolkit that is almost 400 times larger than our own. They can produce all sorts of molecules, enzymes, and signals that our bodies just can't. And that gives them this immense, almost unbelievable power to influence our biology. Okay, so they have all this power. How do they actually use it? How does a tiny bacterium sitting in your gut whisper a command all the way up to your brain? Well, it turns out there's a direct line. It's called the gut-brain axis. Think of it like a massive two-way communication superhighway that directly connects your gut to your brain. And there is constant traffic flowing in both directions all day, every day. And the main express lane on that highway is a massive nerve called the vagus nerve. You can think of it as a hardwired backdoor to your brain. It works like this. A microbe in your gut releases a chemical signal. Your gut cells respond by releasing neurotransmitters, the same chemicals that control your brain, and boom, the vagus nerve fires, carrying that signal straight up to the emotional centers of your brain. It's a bottom-up control system that can totally bypass your conscious thought. So what kind of signals are they sending? Get this. They're the very chemicals that run your brain. This here is like a rogues gallery of microbial mind control. You've got bacteria like lactobacillus pumping out GABA, which is a chemical that basically tells your brain to calm down and reduces anxiety. Then you have others like bacillus that can make dopamine, the molecule of motivation and addiction. They are literally manufacturing the molecules that dictate your mood. And if there's one fact that really drives this home, it's this one. A staggering 95% of your body's serotonin, the famous feel-good chemical, isn't made in your brain. It's made in your gut, where its production is heavily influenced by the microbes living there. Your happiness is, to a very large extent, outsourced. Okay, at this point, you might be thinking this all sounds pretty theoretical, but the evidence that this manipulation is real, that it has tangible, measurable consequences, well, it's profound. Let's open up the case files. So, can a microbe really change your personality? Does this all sound a little bit too much like a movie plot? Well, the lab results are in, and they are wild. In one absolutely groundbreaking experiment, scientists took gut microbes from mice that were naturally bold and adventurous, and they transplanted them into mice that were timid and anxious. And the result? The timid mice became bold. Their fundamental personality was literally rewritten by their new gut bacteria. And it gets even more personal. In another huge study, researchers took fecal samples from human patients diagnosed with major depression and gave them to rats. The result? The rats started developing the exact same symptoms of depression and anxiety. Think about the implication there. This suggests depression isn't just a state of mind. It might actually be a transmissible condition. And this manipulation isn't just limited to bacteria. There's a common parasite called Toxoplasma gondii. And this number right here, 2.65, that is how much more likely an infected person is to be involved in a traffic accident. And why? Because toxoplasma can literally hack your brain. It carries the genes needed to create dopamine, the brain's reward and motivation chemical. This hack leads to a reduction in fear and an increase in risky behavior. And that's not some random side effect, it's the parasite's evolutionary strategy. I know, this all sounds pretty bleak, right? Like we're in a one-way street of control. But what if we could flip the script? What if we could use this exact same knowledge to hack our own hackers? This brings us to the fascinating and emerging field of psychobiotics. The idea is actually pretty simple. If the wrong microbes can hurt your mental health, then maybe we can intentionally introduce the right microbes to improve it. And this isn't just a theory. We're already identifying specific bacterial strains that act like probiotics for your brain. Strains like Bifidobacterium longum have been shown to actually lower stress hormones. Others have been proven to reduce anxiety in human trials. We are, in essence, finally learning how to choose our puppet master. But here's the dark side. This is where that bio-thriller feeling comes creeping back in. Because if we can engineer a microbial cocktail to make someone calm and happy, what's to stop someone else from engineering one to make a population apathetic, or aggressive, or even compliant? A powerful therapeutic tool could just as easily become a weapon. And what all of this really forces us to do is rethink what a human being even is. We aren't really individuals in the way we've always thought. We are holobionts, a walking, talking ecosystem, a superorganism made up of both human and microbial life, constantly negotiating for control. Which leaves us with a final, really profound question to chew on. If a core part of you, your boldness, your anxiety, your very mood, can be transferred from one being to another inside a collection of microbes, then what exactly is the self? Where do you end and where do they begin?